ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for watching Tarnation TV production this evening. Of course, as always on a Thursday night here at the Talladega Challenge at Rolling Thunder Gaming, hosted by Flat Out Racing Network commentating crew. Tonight we got Kyle Matthews in the booth with Seth Cole.
Yeah, it's great to be back here. Thanks, Blaine. And I mean, think about what we had last week, all the pressure of drivers trying to make their way into this round of 8. Nobody had yet been able to get that golden ticket by winning their way in. Tim Knofsker able to have that buzzer beater. He's got a lot of momentum coming into tonight. But Kyle, 5 drivers got eliminated last week, so 5 more X factors in the field here tonight, leaving 8 drivers with 2 races to try and make that final round. Not gonna be nearly as easy a task, I think, for any of those 8 drivers to find their way into that potential Final 4 via a victory.
No, especially the drivers that got eliminated last week. That's just 5 more threats for the win. 5 more drivers that have absolutely nothing to lose. They can go all out tonight and possibly spoil things for these championship contenders.
But which do you think is more of a priority for those remaining playoff contenders, to make sure that you mind your P's and Q's to come away with at least a decent enough finish so that way you don't have to be behind the 8 ball next week, or just make sure that you don't end up getting yourself involved in a wreck here tonight? Because as you mentioned, a lot of those drivers that we saw eliminated last week were drivers that found themselves in the first playoff race with bad luck and then found themselves scampering, clamoring to try to get those points back in the elimination race.
If it were me, I would be thinking about points tonight. Just go out there to, try to get a solid finish and, just keep my mind on that. You mentioned the wrecks. We haven't seen a lot of wrecks this season. I mean, we haven't seen a lot of cautions either. Like, I know we saw a late race wreck last week, but these guys have really been they've been doing an amazing job with this season with this mod. So if it were me, I would just be focused on trying to get a good finish tonight and thinking about points.
Tim Knofsker, of course, as we mentioned, winning the race last week, coming into tonight tied with Josh Metallic for the reformatted points lead amongst the 8 remaining playoff drivers. Only 16 points going to separate those playoff drivers when they take the green flag here tonight. Is the momentum on the side of Knofsker or Josh Metallic, who ended up finishing as the points leader after that round of 13? That's why he's tied with Knofsker based off of bonus points from the first round. What do you think? Do you give the momentum to a recent victory or maybe to 2 weeks of back-to-back consistency?
That's a really good question. Normally, I wouldn't bet against a victory, like somebody that had just won. I mean, a win can really build the momentum. But man, if you're going well consistently too, I mean, either one. I don't know. I wouldn't bet against either one of them right now. In all honesty.
We are going to be keeping our eyes on 8 drivers in particular over the course of the next 2 weeks. At least 4 drivers are going to make their way into the championship battle in the final 2 races of the season. We mentioned Josh Metallic and Tim Knofsker, who come in as the co-points leaders. Grant Wesley, who won the regular season championship, he sits 3rd in the playoff standings, -2. Chuck McClure, defending champion of the series 1 season ago, he is going to sit 4th in points, -6. Bob Seminara, he will be 5th. He is 8 points back. Donnie Garrett and Ronnie Sullins, they will share P6. They're 6th and 7th, respectively, 12 points back. And Denny Carroll was able to nab the final spot to transfer into this second round of the playoffs. He will be 8th of the 8 playoff drivers, and as mentioned, a very close 16 points to the co-points leaders. The 5 drivers that were eliminated last week included Brian Schilling, Ulysses Sandoval, Richard Martin, Greg Lovell, and Greg Palmer. And what makes that kind of interesting is because we ended up having, I think it was about a third of our playoff field when we ended off the regular season were drivers that potentially could win their first championship here on Thursday nights. All of a sudden, the underdog story of a first-time champion, it has dwindled significantly as far as percentage is concerned. Right now, you've only got Rodney Sullins and Denny Carroll as 2 drivers that could potentially do that. That's only a quarter of our remaining playoff field.
It's pretty fitting, we're right in the middle of March Madness, and somebody looking to be the Cinderella story over there. Got the same thing going on here in the Talladega Challenge. Still have a couple of potential first-time champions out there, but a lot of them got eliminated after the first round. Going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
Now, you mentioned about what we saw during the course of the end of the regular season here into the playoffs. The lack of incidents, the lack of cautions, putting so much more emphasis on execution under green flag conditions. With those additional X factors in the field here tonight and more drivers now with the goal of no pressure of a championship, but man, I've only got 4 more chances to end out the season with a victory. Is that something that maybe these playoff drivers have to have in the back of their mind that, yes, the last few weeks they've been all about what you're able to do under green flag conditions, but there's always a chance we could flip that switch and it may end up being a race of survival here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you never know, when it comes to online racing, especially at Talladega. How many times have we said it this season, no race is exactly the same, even though they're racing at the same exact track, the same exact people, every single week. It's like you never really know what you're going to get. And this season, we've seen basically everything imaginable and then some. So it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be fun to see.
We talk about the fact usually at super speedways, it's not about where you start, it's where you finish. But a lot of drivers, when we talk to them, they say that their good luck or their bad luck can be in relation to where their pit stall is located based off of random qualifying draw. It's interesting looking at our starting lineup here tonight. 5 of the 8 playoff drivers have pit stalls listed through 1 through 10. They will start inside of the top 10 here tonight. 2 of our playoff drivers are going to actually start tonight on the front row. So it is going to be interesting to see for those drivers just how important it is for them with the starting track position, how earnestly they are going to try to keep said track position as soon as the green flag drops.
That's something I've always found intriguing about this series. They don't qualify. They just let the game choose who starts where, who gets lucky with the qualifying draw, and they just have to work things out from there. Really, it really makes things exciting, I think.
Certainly does. Well, they are mere seconds away from when they will be gridding up another full field here tonight, which is certainly great for the series, certainly great for the fans watching to be able to see 40 cars thundering around the racetrack, but maybe not exactly a great thing if you're a playoff contender, because a bad finish here tonight outside of the top 30, top 35, all those points lost could put you into a must-win situation going into next week. Not to say it hasn't been done. We have seen several drivers be able to overcome the odds, get that victory they need to be able to advance into the next round of the playoffs, but they talk about it every single week. These race victories are so precious because they can be few and far between with the caliber of racing that is here and talent that is throughout the field. Here tonight, it'll be interesting to see if there's going to be those 1 or 2 drivers that will be dubbing into next week as a must-win driver to get into that Final Four.
Yeah, and it's been an extremely competitive season. I mean, last week, Tim Nosker went to victory lane it was his second win of the season. That's only the second time we've had a repeat winner this season. I mean, it's been incredible.
A great point. Yeah, we've had seasons where we've had drivers get 3, 4 victories, and multiple drivers do that. But to your point, the wins have been spread out through numerous drivers during the course of not only the regular season, but here at the start of the playoffs as well. Well, they are moments away from gridding up, so we will take you through the field and let you know where the 40 respective drivers will be starting tonight's race. Bob Seminara, who is a former winner this season, going to sit 5th in the playoff standings coming into tonight, one of your Elite 8. He's going to nab the pole position, and alongside of him, the driver that went to victory lane last week, 2-time winner Tim Nosker. Robert Breedlove, he'll be on the inside of row number 2. Alongside of him, another playoff driver, co-points leader Josh Metallic. Row 3 will be Mark Paglia and playoff driver, defending champion Chuck McClure. Row 4 going to find Jeff Crivello alongside of Greg Lovell. And your top 10 going to be completed by playoff driver Donnie Garrett and Bobby Farrell. Row 6 is going to be Terry Bombard. He'll be joined by Mike Mangialardi. Row 7 will be Perry Bond and Cy Jones. Row 7 is going to find David Little and Richard Martin. And row 8 will be Billy Elliser and Kelly Causey. Joe DeSpirito going to start back in row 9. He'll be alongside of Ron Hagelin. Your top 20 will be completed by Jeffrey Elliott back in the field here tonight, and he'll be alongside of Ken Roberts. Pretty deep in the field for Grant Wesley here tonight. He'll be on the inside of row number, just lost count, row number 11. and he will be joined by Glenn Harris. Row 12 will find Chris Elliott and Keith Bynum. Row 13 will be Tim Anderson alongside of Michael Norman. Row 14, Brian Lovell and Graham McDonald. Greg Palmer is going to complete the top 30 alongside of Bernie Mobbs. 31st starting spot will be Ulysses Sandoval alongside of Jeremy Jeffries. Row 17, Doug Hulick. Deep in the field for Rodney Sullins. Same for Denny Carroll as he will be back in the 37th starting spot. John Godfrey will be 38th, and your final row, completing the 40-car field here tonight, will be Brian Rawson and Pat McCarsky. We always seem to look for those particular drivers towards the rear of the field, see how quickly they're going to move their way to the front. The 38 and the 41, I think we'll be keeping our eyes on them, see just how quickly can they cut their way through the field, progressively make their way into the top 20, top 10, maybe up here to the front, may even have to rely on green flag pit stops to get that job done.
Yeah, it makes me wonder. Them starting all the way back there. Are they going to try to make that charge to the front as quickly as they can, or are they just going to try to hold back a little bit, see how everybody's racing up front before they decide what to do?
Things are starting to. Oh, looks like
I think
we had a mechanical problem there on the pacing lap, so they are going to reset, and then they'll roll off pit road here again. Gives a moment to be able to talk about the fact that as things are narrowing down here for the overall championship, it is also narrowing down as far as the battle in the bracket challenge championship. We only have a couple more weeks to go before we will have our final battle in said championship hunt. Tonight, we're going to see round 7 of the loser side of the bracket. Josh Metallic and Chuck McClure going head-to-head. Winner of that matchup tonight, highest finisher, will take on Grant Wesley next week. And then the winner of that bout will face off against Brian Schilling, who has been waiting, I think, now for 4 or 5 weeks to find out who he's going to take on, as he's had that very extended bye week in winning the winner's side of the bracket challenge. So it will either be Metallic, McClure, or Wesley that will face off against Schilling, who is a former winner of the bracket challenge a couple of seasons ago.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I totally forgot to bring up the bracket challenge last week. I do apologize for that, but I was just told by Michael they reset everything so Richard Martin could get into the server. I guess he was having some problems there, so I guess everything's good with him now.
Martin was scheduled to roll off the grid, looks like from the 16th position, and it does indeed look like that STP number 43 machine is good to go. Just gives them a little bit extra time here to think about what's going to happen for these 66 laps, right? I mean, obviously it's a blessing for Richard Martin because he gets to race, but is this maybe a opportunity to ride for an extra 2.66 miles and maybe overthink your strategy just when you had a strategy in place on the opening pace lap?
Well, I've been really good when it comes to overthinking things, especially when it comes to a race at Talladega or something. So, know exactly what that's like. It's not really sure how to look at it. Partially you want to get this thing started, but other times maybe you don't know what to do. So it gives you a little bit extra time, like you said.
Again, to remind everybody what is at stake here tonight for our 8 playoff drivers. If you put together 2 good, consistent races between this week and next week, you got a good chance of pointing your way into the Final Four to compete for the championship. However, if you're able to find victory lane here tonight, guess what? You go into next week worry-free. You could park on the first lap, and you're going to be battling the final 2 races for the championship. It's really going to all, I think, be about positioning for these drivers. If you're up there inside of the top 5, top 10 late in this race, I think maybe, just maybe, if the cards play right, you go for that victory. But if you're riding maybe around 11th through 15th, you're probably content to stay there and see if some mayhem occurs up in front of you. You can pick up a couple more positions, a couple more spots. It's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out. Green flag pit stops could also be in the conversation here. Will we see somebody lock themselves into the Final Four here tonight, or will a non-playoff driver deny that automatic lock-in here this evening? Maybe pick up their first win of season 67. Playoff drivers Bob Seminara, Tim Nofska bring us down through the tri-oval. Round number 2 of the playoffs is green.
Ladies and gentlemen, Seth Cole.
Didn't step on it, so.
Talk about it all the time. Kind of seems minuscule in the early portions of the season, but then we get towards the end of the regular season, especially during these rounds of the playoffs, that valuable bonus point for a lap led. You know that both Novsker and Seminara, they are hoping that the respective lines that are pushing them are going to get them to the start-finish line first, because that could be a very important point once we get to the end of next week's race.
Got 3 drivers out there that would love to get a bonus point early on. You see the top 4 all playoff drivers: Novsker, Metallic, McClure, and Seminara. And give the first bonus point to Tim Novsker, picking up right where he left off last week.
And Novsker and Metallic, they came into tonight tied for the points lead after the points are reformatted from round 1 into round 2. So give the early edge via live points to the 088. Josh Metallic right behind him. And then there's Chuck McClure as well, another playoff driver, all nose to tail, all Chevrolets here. Novsker, correction, make that McClure. Little loose right there. Not sure if he maybe had a little bumper grab off the back of the 38 or maybe a semi-late bump from Greg Lovell behind him, that 4th place car.
And that inside line is going absolutely nowhere. Bob Seminara started on the pole. It's followed out of the picture right now. Just middle groove is where you want to be right now.
Like Seminara is going to move to the middle line there, but there's a 3rd lane to his outside. Now Paglia is going to take him 3 wide to the bottom. Donnie Garrett's been able to get himself tail end of this single file of the top 6. Remember, we talked with Donnie a couple of weeks ago, and he said, man, when the playoffs come around, this is where I shine. And he's now into the round of 8. Would love to lock himself into the final 4 here tonight with a victory, but he also has that strategy, top 5 them to death. That might be the strategy of that Astroglide Chevrolet here this evening.
Talk about momentum. I think that win that he got a couple of weeks ago to lock himself into the playoffs when he was in a must-win situation. I mean, that just changed everything for him. I mean, it's been a completely different season for him ever since he got that victory.
Talk about momentum. How about the momentum of the 88 of Grant Wesley? Just looked at the starting grid. He started this race from 23rd. It's taken him 4 laps to crack the top 10.
We talk about some of these playoff drivers starting deep in the field. What are they going to do? Well, Wesley's been on the charge here. Still looking for the 38 and the 41. See how their progress is right now.
Just took a little gander back there. Looks like Denny Carroll's just kind of riding at the tail end of the field. Rodney Sullins is the trailing car on the inside line. So they've not made a whole lot of progress at this point. It's like maybe they're not exactly planning to do so. Might be in ride mode just for the moment. Try and wait and see what lines are moving forward and plan accordingly. But of course, as well, make sure that you do not tear up that equipment before we end up getting at least to the checkered flag, at least the final lap here. As Seminara has found some help now.
Yeah, help from Joe DeSpirito, that Florida gang working together once again. But boy, they just got abandoned on that outside line. Everybody behind them just goes to the middle.
Elliott brothers there, Jeffrey Elliott in the 56. Nice to see him back in the field here tonight. Right behind him, that familiar Cheetos number 9 of Chris Elliott. Robert Breedlove, Michael Norm, Mike Mangialardi all down there at the bottom. Only 2 soldiers on the top, and they are going backwards, Seminara and DeSpirito. Saw DeSpirito miss a couple of races at the beginning of the season. Really unusual to not see that 24 at least make the playoffs, let alone advance into the round of 8. So when we talk about those big X factors and drivers that could easily win as a non-playoff contender on any given night, you got to put the driver of the Valvoline Chevrolet up towards the top of that list.
Absolutely. Kind of a bit of a surprise that he hasn't won yet this season, but we saw a couple seasons ago he was not in the playoffs, I think, due to missing a couple of races once again. But he, picked up a couple of victories during the playoffs, and he's very capable of doing that again here this season.
Just a bit behind them, you've got the 22 of Greg Palmer, that Hooters Chevrolet, one of 5 drivers that was eliminated from the playoffs last week. Did not have the best of performances in the first round, or the first race of the playoffs, I should say, and found himself really having to scramble to be able to get up above the cut line last week, was unable to do so.
He was making a run for it here in those closing laps, but we saw what happened with him and Grant Wesley getting together, and unfortunately that knocked Palmer out of the playoffs.
And you mentioned about that incident there with Grant Wesley. That's a big reason why we don't have Grant Wesley higher seeded in this second round of the playoffs as well. You would have thought that he'd be up there in the conversation for the points lead, but due to the incident last week, he was given the EOL penalty post-race, and that now finds him third in the playoff standings coming into tonight. Right now, he's the trailing car on that inside line. There's an outside line forming. Jeffrey Elliott going to lead the charge. This reminded me of the Talladega races from about 4 or 5 seasons ago, where you run side by side, 2 by 2, but they would share that middle line. Literally, you would fit 2 rows of cars in between those white hash marks. You see, nobody is running the bottom, nobody is running up on that 4th line. They're all sharing that middle groove together.
It's just really unusual to see for Talladega. You'd think they would have 3 wide right about now, but that middle groove usually is the most powerful line. We're seeing it right now.
And Knopfsker continues to lead the way here. The Metallic, McClure, Lovell, and Bobby Farrell right now. Good run in the 5th position. Seen Bobby Farrell in the conversation beginning of the season a couple of times. Had a good qualifying effort here this evening. Started this race from the 10th spot. And right now holding down a good position. You know, we end up talking about is McClure with a moment there of blinking. Hopefully that sorts itself out. I mean, I'll just kind of tangent off of what I was going to talk about because I think this is more important. You see that warping for the 17. Man, we talk about the bad luck that drivers can have, not of their own making, getting involved in wrecks at a track like this. Can you imagine the gut punch it would be for a playoff driver if something completely out of the control like connection problems could end up putting them in a must-win situation going into next week? Well, Chuck McClure, you are hoping that settles out as quickly as possible.
Well, that's what happened to Ulysses Sandoval last week. He was running well up amongst the leaders, led a lot of the early portion of that race, had those connection issues, lost a lap, and was never able to get it back. We didn't have a caution until the very late stages of the race. So, that knocked him out of the playoffs right there. So I'm sure Chuck McClure is pretty nervous right now if that continues to happen.
Oh, trouble!
Oh, boy.
Chris Elliott down into Robert Breedlove. Jeffrey Elliott's involved, and there are several others.
Rodney Sollins.
Yes, indeed. I think Rodney might be okay. Nobody else hit him. Terry Bombard, Ulysses Sandoval also collected up in this one. I believe Dave Little might have also gotten a piece. There's damage on the right side of Perry Bond. But that was in that battle right up towards the front of the field where that outside line was trying to make progress. And I don't know if there was side-by-side contact or a bump gone wrong, but we've got a lot of torn-up race cars as a result.
56 was the first car I saw go around. I'm not sure exactly what happened to him. This was right near the front of the field here. They were, leading that outside line, the Elliott brothers.
Happened behind him, I think.
Was this a bump gone wrong? Maybe. Yeah. Oh, bumper grab.
Yep, bumper grab. It almost looked like maybe Chris Elliott was giving some light bumps to Jeffrey Elliott in the corner. Might have gotten Jeffrey a little loose, and then that loss of momentum caused the bumper grab between the two of them, and then it was just on from there. And we talk about corner wrecks. You got a wreck coming off of a corner. Very difficult to know, to project where those race cars are going to spin, whether they're going to spin up to the wall, spin down the racetrack towards the inside wall, and a lot of drivers got collected up in this.
Saw the 56 kind of wiggle a little bit right before they wrecked. They're not sure. Guessing that was a result of the bump behind him there, but
had a bunch of other drivers involved that spun down towards the inside wall, including Keith Bynum, Doug Hulick. Get a chance here. I think we should focus on the 38 of Rodney Sollins because we did see him go around. He was in the middle of it, but I believe he got minimal, if no damage. The big thing for him was when he got spun around, I was worried with oncoming traffic that he might get hit. I'm pretty sure nobody hit him. Oh, narrowly avoided by both Ulysses Sandoval on the top side and Graham McDonald on the bottom.
Saw a little bit of contact he had with the 10 car and one other car. I forget which one it was.
It was Palmer.
I don't see any damage to it, so he should be okay. Should be in the keyword.
He started this race from the back of the pack and was slowly making his way forward. He had just cracked the top 30. Yeah, I think he's going to be okay. It looks like very minor contact with the front end of that race car. I don't even think he's going to get aero damage from that. I could be wrong. NR is very finicky sometimes, but at least visually from a third-party standpoint, it looks like he should be good to go.
You might have seen his life flash before, as I see in the 96 and the 33 to his outside and to his inside there, but
we talk about the seas parting when you're trying to make your way through a wreck. That was the seas parting of the wreck happening around him. Now it's going to be the guessing game for a number of drivers, depending on just how much damage they sustained from that incident. Will they still be up to speed? Will they need a drafting partner to be able to stay up there in the pack? Or will they potentially be off the pace? Aside from Rodney Sullins, none of the other 7 playoff drivers were involved in that wreck. Denny Carroll was back behind that, but he was able to get through unscathed, and the other 6 drivers were up ahead, or at least out of harm's way, of when the wreck occurred in their vicinity. As it looks like Jeffrey Elliott is still out there in the 56. I'm pretty sure that this is him leading some laps here, knowing that he's either done for the night or certainly not going to be up to speed. So he's trying to garner as many laps led here, get the bonus point if he can.
Yeah, there's a lot of damage on that 56 car. So yeah, I will be shocked if he stays out there. He doesn't at least come to pit road, try to get that damage repaired, but looks like the lights are off on the pace car. Looks like he is going to stay out. Okay. Well,
interesting.
Yeah.
Only thing I could potentially think of here is he's not coming to pit road because he knows if he pulls in his pit stall, they're going to tell him it's over. They can't fix the damage. So he's taking the high side here. I'm assuming he's going to go all the way up to the wall, let the field on by him. I think this is his attempt to at least stay in the race as long as he possibly can. The one thing I'm a little concerned about, though, is I'm not exactly sure he'll be able to make it to the end of the race, because more than likely with that much damage, the officials are probably going to black flag him for dropping debris. So I think he's just trying to see how many laps he can run before they eventually disqualify him.
Well, our FRN colleague Michael Norman just told me Jeffrey Elliott is going to do exactly what you said. He's going to go to the very outside and let's see what happens here. Hopefully everyone's able to get by him with no problem here.
Yeah, I'm surprised they don't just ask him to move. Because like you said, he's not going to be able to go very far looking like that.
No.
And then I wonder, you're kind of in the way, but Jeffrey's no stranger to this type of thing either. I mean, he knows what he's doing on the track, and the tri-oval is wider in theory.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And they also are getting up to speed here, too. So as long as it goes up to the extreme outside line in 1 and 2, the entire field more than likely should be past him by the time they hit the back straightaway.
Right.
So Jeffrey has scored the race leader. Tim Knopfsker going to be second. With Josh Metallic, Chuck McClure, Greg Lovell, your top 5. Then it'll be Bobby Farrell, Donnie Garrett, Bob Seminara, Grant Wesley, and Michael Norman, the top 10, as we get ready to go back green, our first restart of the night. Completion of lap 13 on to 14.
See everybody anticipating the 56 going to the outside. Boy, somebody got squirrely back there. Couldn't quite tell who it was. A blue and yellow car, but
I think it was Cy Jones. Like they all were able to make their way through 1 and 2 safely there. 56 now dropping way back there, as he's obviously got no straight line speed with the damage sustained on his Mountain Dew Chevrolet. Knopfsker moves up there in front of Josh Metallic, who in turn moves up in front of Chuck McClure. We saw these 3 working together at the drop of the green flag, and they go right back to the status quo.
You saw Chuck McClure
to the pits.
Saw Chuck McClure and Tim Knopsker work perfectly together last week. Scored a 1-2 finish for those two. And they're running first and third right now.
You guys were talking before the race about how the lotto qualifying happens here. I believe at the end of every season, they have the league can vote on the next season setup. Like they'll vote on the mod, they'll vote on the qualifying procedure. So the drivers were in majority voting for the lottery. So, and this mod, I believe they do that every season.
Yeah, and in all honesty, I'm in favor for it, just in the fact that, you know, you have to have an entirely different strategy each and every week, because if you're really good at qualifying, then it's easy to have the same strategy week after week. I'll qualify at the front, and then I'll run at the front the entirety of the race. But when you know that you've got a car capable of running up at the front and dominating, and the lotto queue puts you at the back of the pack, you gotta call an audible. You gotta play a strategy accordingly. It also can play a factor into exactly when and who you're going to come to pit road with. So it throws a little fly into the ointment there, and I kind of like that.
It's almost like a Saturday night short track race in a way. You know, they'll run like the first segment, then
like heats.
They'll put the heat races, and they'll put the fast guys in the back and see if the fast guys can work their way back up to the front.
Seminary was trying to get something going on the inside line. Now he's got some help from Donnie Garrett and Joe DeSpirito, but the top 5 single file, and they're spread out 3 wide for 6th. As soon as I say that, Grant Wesley jumps from that outside line down behind Greg Lovell, and will look to tow up the line led by Richard Martin.
Retired cars tonight. Dave Little is out. Jeffrey Elliott shows he's still running, according to my stats anyway.
Both Dave Little and Jeffrey Elliott have left the team speak, and now Jeffrey Elliott's status shows up as retired. So 2 drivers currently not going to reach the conclusion of this race. The remaining 38 drivers still running on the racetrack. It's like 37 of them are up speed. Chris Elliott's still out there logging last, but that car is badly off the pace, involved in that massive wreck off of turn 4.
That's too bad, too, because see the Elliott brothers racing together like that's cool. Jeff's been away for a while. He got married and was doing his own thing, but always find your way back to NASCAR 2003.
They were running so well, too. I mean, you know, you talk about drivers that, you know, they've been away for a while. They come back and they're fighting on that outside line, get up inside the top 10. Didn't miss a beat. Still know how to super speedway race.
Muscle memory.
It's always interesting to see, you know, siblings in this game. I mean, you see it, you know, we've had a history of brothers, you know, when it comes to real life NASCAR, but when it comes to this, at least from what I've seen, you don't really see a whole lot yet.
Do you think that if they get involved in a wreck with each other in the middle of November, it makes things awkward for Thanksgiving dinner?
It could. I mean, you know, depending on what's on the line in that race, it very well could.
Yeah, because I know you got Jeff and Chris, then you also have Bob and Tom Dixon.
Yep.
And then, of course, there's families involved, too, like all the Lovels with their kids and cousins and everything else, like, you know. Ken Roberts with Zach Roberts. It's cool. My brothers played this thing, but they never really played it online too much. We did a lot of AI racing, and I was more of the online guy. Generations now. Things been out for 20 plus years now. It's literally, you know, Bob Dixon passing away. He was almost 80. And then we've got guys who are in their teenage years finding it also. So it's pretty awesome.
That is amazing right there. Somebody, you know, the ages of people, you know, that old still playing the game. That is, man, I hope I'm still able to, you know, play.
There's a couple guys in their 80s. I can't even remember who it is now. There's a couple other guys who are like in their 80s that play this still.
If I live, you know, to be that old, good Lord willing, I hope I still have the ability to play a game like this. It would be amazing.
And you need to know how computers work.
Oh, yeah.
When you know how the game works, it's easy, but, you know, it is a computer game. So there's stuff you need to know.
That looks like a couple more drivers have retired from the race. Chris Elliott, who we mentioned, was badly damaged and off the pace. He just a couple of laps ago brought his machine to the garage, and Mark Pagley was also involved in that first caution. Looks like he's retired, so Pagley will get credit for 37th, Chris Elliott 38th. That leaves us with 36 drivers here still running. You mentioned about Cy Jones having that issue on the restart, Kyle. He has since lost the draft, so he's going to be hoping for a yellow flag to come out. We got 35 drivers in this lead group. And just a couple of laps ago, Michael Norman and Grant Wesley, I think they've got something cooking because they made a move to that middle groove simultaneously and almost caught the top three by surprise. They weren't able to get enough momentum. Nofsker, Metallic, and McClure moved up in front of them, but it kind of seems like the 30 and the 88, they want to go.
It's going to be an interesting position for Michael right now. I mean, he's surrounded by all these playoff drivers, and here he is having a great run in the 4th spot right now, so...
And you were saying, too, that they reset the server because Martin was having issues connecting, and here he is sitting in 6th. So I bet you he's glad they were able to pull that.
It's always nice when things work out like that.
Well, depending on the time of day, sometimes it can't be done. You know, they got to go, but he made it.
Well, remember, too, for Richard Martin, we ended up seeing him pick up a big victory this season to advance into the playoffs. Unfortunately, he was eliminated last week, but you go back a season ago, Richard Martin pulled off a tremendous fuel strategy victory during the playoffs. It locked out a playoff driver from winning their way into the next round. He could maybe do the same thing again here tonight.
Isn't that how he got his win this season on fuel mileage as well?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, it's not just put down
making some moves now.
It's not just putting down the gas pedal and turning left. There's a lot of things in a simulator that can get you there, get you to the end of the race in certain positions. You know, it's crazy, like you say, fuel mileage, tire management, wheel settings, all these things.
Now Michael's going to lead that inside line, getting right in front of Richard Martin. I'm not sure if he wanted to make the move or if he got a little bit nervous seeing the 17 kind of blink again, but Michael going to go for the lead here.
They had some good momentum down there, started by Ken Roberts and Kelly Causey, and then as soon as that momentum began, 55 in the 00 will move up into the middle groove, and Michael, Richard, Greg are going to start falling backwards here now as they're on the slower lane, going around through the exit of the corners and not going to have the numbers they need for the straight line speed. Wesley taking a peek up there to the top, trying to get to that right rear quarter panel of Chuck McClure, and he's there.
It's got some good help right there from Ken Roberts and Kelly Causey. Bob Seminara going to stay in the middle groove. He's got Rodney Solins right behind him, so saw Rodney in that crash. It didn't get any damage, it looks like. Greg Palmer, another driver we saw in that crash, is back up here, so those two are up to speed.
So if positions hold here when they come around to the start-finish line, we're going to have 6 of our 8 playoff drivers up inside of the top 10.
No pressure, boys.
No.
It's a good spot to be because, like you said, with so many drivers out here on the track, you know, if there is potential for something to happen, at least you're going to be in front of it. The closer to the front you happen to be.
Say all these playoff drivers end up finishing up here. I mean, how does that got to feel if you're one of those drivers in the playoffs? Are we thinking, okay, good, I got a good solid top 10, may have gained some points, and then you look at the final running, the results, and it looks like a push for everybody.
Yep, that's the thing, right? Like we talk about it all the time. It seems like whoever you're ending up battling, whether it's a cut line battle or who you're battling for a regular season championship, or in this case, these 8 drivers in this second round of the playoffs, they always seem to find each other at the same place of the track at the same time. So, yeah, I mean, a 5th place finish could be great. But hey, if the rest of your competition makes up the second half of the top 10, that's not a whole lot of points you made up on them.
Well, you know what's crazy, too? If you look at the standings, you talk about how close this is. We've got 34 drivers within 2 seconds of each other right now. That's literally how fast it can change.
It's still trailing that pack is Denny Carroll. So it looks like the strategy for the 41, who did not get the benefit on the qualifying draw, started this race from the 37th position. It's like he's been pretty content to just trail the field, kind of watch what happens in front of him. And Donnie Garrett, who we saw up here towards the front of the field in the early going, he's back there as well in the 31st position. Not 100% certain if maybe he got shuffled out to the back, or potentially, when we ended up having those pit stops under our only caution, maybe got a black flag and had to go EOL. So he's now riding back in the 31st position. That's why we've got two of our Elite 8 that are not up here inside of the top 10.
Then you look at the top 5, it's all playoff drivers right now. Knopfsker, Metallic, Leclerc, Seminara, Solins, right there, your top 5. And Grant Wesley not far behind them.
He's up there pushing a fellow Dodge. And Jeremy Jeffries, remember back a couple of weeks ago, the first race of the playoffs, Jeremy Jeffries went to victory lane as a non-playoff driver, denying an automatic lock for a playoff contender to get into the round of 8. We'd love lightning to strike twice, pick up another victory in the first race of a playoff round.
He won in that very paint scheme, that very nice-looking General Lee.
I believe Rodney Sullins painted that car. I wonder if Rodney felt a breath of fresh air painting that. It's a very simple design.
It is.
Simple yet iconic.
Yeah.
The only thing is, though, I'm not 100% certain. I could be wrong in this. I've yet to see that Dodge template anywhere. I almost wonder if he had to make the template design from scratch.
Oh.
To make it accurate with the car. I'm not sure.
See here, I'm thinking you click on orange, and then you click fill, and then you're done. But yeah, you're right. If he had to design the actual lines on there, that I can't even imagine pulling that off. That's cool.
Oh, Rodney's extremely talented when it comes to painting cars, so it wouldn't surprise me if he was able to pull that off.
Rodney's hoping that car he painted is fast and gets him pushed to the front, because he just jumped up in front of Jeremy Jeffries. Got a nice shove there into turn 3. That'll at least get him alongside of Bob Seminara. Oh, and now we know why he jumped up there.
So
Oh, gosh, oh, Michael Norman is almost around courtesy
Michael
of Bernie
kept it
Mugg.
together. Somebody didn't, though. That was the
Hagelin, Bond, and Harris. Yeah.
Like Ron Hagelin and Perry Bond are out into the grass as well.
Yeah.
And how many times have we seen that this season? Coming down pit road, couple cars get together. And
I think we have figured out Michael's Achilles heel. And that pit road entry. I think it was a couple of incidents last week on pit road entry that the 30 was involved when I looked at the post-race incident report.
I don't think that one was his fault, though. Whoever that was who was inside kind of got loose. I think it was the 31 car. They got together, but able to keep it together. I hope neither of them got a speeding penalty, but here we go again. Guys locking him up. A little bit of contact. Kelly Causey going around.
Greg Palmer got sent out into the grass. Jeff Crivello just got right rear hooked out into the infield grass as well. John Godfrey with a little landscaping.
Some of these guys might miss their pit stalls and have to go all the way back around again.
They make such a big emphasis on grade 5 pit stops. This is why right here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the tough things, too, as far as the broadcast is concerned, because a lot can happen between the commitment line to come to pit road and the commitment line leaving. Drivers trying to maneuver their way around each other to get into their pit stalls, maybe not even getting into their pit stall, bypassing it. We kind of look around and see a driver that was up inside of the top 5, top 10 before the cycle began, and then see them outside the top 30. It's like, when in the world happened? Well, an incident on pit road that we may not have been able to catch could be a deciding factor behind all of that. And that's why we say pit road plays just as much, if not more of a factor into the outcome of a race at a super speedway.
Right now we got Tim Knopfsker and Chuck McClure running nose to tail, and
got the momentum. I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to get them to the lead here. That group that they're bypassing, they've just now gotten up to speed. Can be really close.
So Michael just told me over whisper that he did not get a speeding penalty because of all that. So
Yeah, I haven't seen any pop up. According to GNL TV, anyway, we seem to be clear.
And I believe for the most part, even with the contact that we saw, I think most everybody actually, even if they spun out into the infield grass, they were able to pass to the left side of the commitment cone. So I don't think anybody would have been on the receiving end of a 30-second penalty as...
Probably going to make it 3 wide on the bottom there.
This is going to be tight. They've got that lap car of Ron Hagelin in the middle, and then they've got those slower machines up on the top side as well.
4 wide right there.
Oh, boy,
Whoa!
solids on the apron. Boy, that was...
Wow, Hagelin in the middle by himself there, 4 wide. That's pretty awesome.
We don't see them 4 wide in the tri-oval very often. Sometimes we'll see it in 1 and 2 or 3 and 4, but very rarely do we see them 4 wide in the tri-oval. That can be really sketchy, and you saw that little wiggle by Rodney Sullins. I don't know if that was a bump in the tri-oval by Jeremy Jeffries or if that was in reaction to that 4 wide situation, but that was a bit of a heart-stopping moment there for one of our playoff 8.
Well, I get nervous anytime I see 4 wide at Talladega. I'm so used to watching offline races where if the AI go 4 wide, that usually ends up in a wreck
crash,
a lot of times. So
We got to remember, too, like the crew chief in the game will acknowledge 3 wide. They don't acknowledge any more than that. So
Yeah.
It's like, you're in the middle, 3 wide, but then if it goes 4 wide, all he says is, hold your line. So then you don't know where you are. So then you're relying on the TeamSpeak
on your
chat
own.
to other drivers see that. As another driver, you got to see you boys are 4 wide up there. That way they know, okay, we are 4 wide. So it's sometimes it relies on your fellow drivers too, relaying some messages that we know that the game won't relay because a 4 wide situation doesn't exist in the code for the crew chief.
So basically going 4 wide, it was not even like programmed into the game. That is, wow.
Yeah, it's just like I guess they just programmed enough lines of voice where once it gets to somewhere that it just says, hold your line. That's all he says. Hold your line. You could be 6 wide, hold your line, which he's right. Stay where you are.
Good advice.
That's when you know stuff's getting crazy, because when they just tell you to hold your line, then you should probably do so, as it's pretty tight out there.
Well, after what we saw there in that cycle of pit stops, the list is rapidly growing of drivers that would love to see our second caution of the night to potentially save their race. You see Brian Rawson going a lap down. Right now, he is one of 8 drivers that currently find themselves off the lead lap. Ron Hagelin, Robert Breedlove, John Godfrey, Perry Bond, Graham McDonald, Jeff Crivello, and Cy Jones amongst those. And then as far as the playoff drivers are concerned, right now we've got 6 of our Elite 8 up here in this lead pack inside of the top 10. But Donnie Garrett right now is in 14th. Denny Carroll is in 19th. They're back in a second group that's running about 5 seconds off of this lead pack. So they're going to need a little bit of help. I'm not 100% certain. I'm looking at the lap times here, and it looks like they are a little bit slower by about 0.4 to half a second than the lap times that lead group is turning. So they are not reeling in the lead pack. And they are going to definitely need those drivers up there, those playoff drivers, to either have an issue on the next round of pit stops or have a caution to be able to bunch them all back up.
We saw Terry Bombard was involved in that caution. And you said that they're not gaining any ground. Makes me wonder if Bombard's completely up to speed. Donnie Garrett had thoughts of going to the inside of him right there, but pulled back up there.
Checking lap times here. Terry Bombard last time by ran a 47.96. Drivers up in the lead pack are pulling 47.8. A couple of them towards the tail end of the pack are pulling high 47.7. So they are definitely creating a lot more straight line speed in this lead group than they are in the second group. And they do have more cars up in this lead pack as well, and continue to accumulate cars with more and more of those stragglers on the tail end lead lap that they reel in.
Looking at the running order, I know we still have plenty of laps left in this thing, but same exact top three in the same exact order from last week. Seth, has that ever happened with you? All the races that you've called, back-to-back weeks, interview the same three drivers?
Not that I can remember, no. And this might have been their strategy coming in of, hey, our chemistry, our combination worked really well last week. Let's get through this week. Let's get as many points as we possibly can. If one of us makes it into the final four, great. We'll try and get the other two in, either through a win next week or both of us through points. And then we'll battle it out for the championship in a couple of weeks' time.
We got to remember to thank our sponsor, too, for season number 67, although we don't know who it is. They would like to remain anonymous. So thanks, random donator person.
Donnie Garrett all by
He's got
himself.
damage. Donnie's got guys, we've had a problem with Donnie Garrett. I saw smoke.
I did too,
just
yeah.
on the inside, just past the start-finish line. I think the 77 might have gotten spun and it didn't bring out a yellow.
Yeah, I was wondering what that smoke was about.
Yeah, he did. Go back and watch it now on replay.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
Was running second in line in that second group. This is Sandoval right behind him. And it was coming out of the tri-oval. I'm not sure if Donnie might have been actually trying to get by Terry Bombard to be the lead car, and huge impact into the inside wall.
It was down below the racing surface, too, and it didn't bring it. That's why the caution didn't come out. That's a terrible break there for Donnie Garrett.
And we talk about how close the points were coming into tonight, how close they potentially could be leaving here this evening. You cannot afford a bad race here this evening and find yourself potentially in a must-win situation to advance in the Final Four next week. Right now with Donnie Garrett, who at the time of incident was running in the top 15, now finds himself off the pace in 28th. Potentially, he could end up finishing outside of the top 30, and I think that would absolutely put him in must-win next week.
So here's a question. If Ulysses Sandoval in the 96 believes that he caused that, how does Ulysses serve his penalty?
After penalty, he would pass down pit road, which I believe he has already done.
I think so, because I saw him back there with Donnie, so I'm thinking he might have already done it.
Yep, I believe he's already served that penalty to avoid a post-race EOL.
Mm-hmm. So under green, it's a drive-through, and then under yellow, it would just be an EOLL.
Correct.
Right.
Chuck McClure again, blinking there momentarily.
Yeah. I was actually focused on Chuck, and the camera stopped moving. That means the car disappeared. But he's back now. He steps out for a second. Sometimes.
I mean, the good news for Chuck, if it could be considered good news, I mean, warping is never good news, but the fact that it's been happening infrequently, and it seems to settle itself out rather quickly, also with the fact that most of the time when it's been happening, he's been in this single-file train with drivers that he's been working with the entire race, Nofsker and Metallic. So, you know, obviously they're giving him enough room until it settles out here, and he's not really putting anybody in danger. It's not like the kind of warp that we see where a car lunges forward or backwards or side to side,
sweeping, yeah,
in a double wide or a three wide battle. So the situation, the times that it has happened, has actually been favorable for driver 17.
Was it Ulysses that had that happen? He had a little bit of a warp happen, like on the start-finish line, and he didn't even get credit for the entire lap.
Yeah, that happened to him last week. That's what took him out of the playoffs. I mean, just something completely out of his control. Not sure where Chuck McClure lives. I mean, don't know if it could be weather or something. I know I'm dealing with some weather right now moving in, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not, but...
Brian Rossum just went a second lap down there. Not sure. Yeah, looks like he actually just made a pit stop moments ago. Got the race within the race here in this lead group. As towards the tail end of this lead pack, you've got nose to tail the 111 of Ron Hagelin and the 931 of Robert Breedlove. Right now, those two drivers are the first cars one lap down. They would be in the lucky dog positions. But then just a couple cars behind them, you've got that orange 711 of John Godfrey. He is the third car 1 lap down. So he's trying to get up there, at least past Robert Breedlove, into a free pass position. So if a caution comes out, he'd be able to get back on the lead lap.
Again, we got to thank John Godfrey for widening pit road here. He's familiar with the program known as Sandbox, which you need to use to modify these tracks, which I hear can be kind of a nightmare. So thanks, Johnny. You do great work.
Yeah, I've never actually edited the parameters of a racetrack, but I have reskinned a racetrack, and I can tell you it is a nightmare. So full credit to him for being able to do what he does.
I think widening pit road would actually require you to get in there and actually modify the geometry.
I think you also have to edit the INI for pit stalls and stuff as well.
Yeah, because stuff would be located in different spots.
Got 2 more cars going a lap down right there. Donnie Garrett and Ulysses Sandoval. We saw what happened to both of them.
Donnie is still dealing with the damage that he sustained from that hit into the inside wall. He did not come to pit road. The Ulysses is trying to keep him up there as best as he can after he was able to hook back up with Donnie after serving the pass-through penalty, but Donnie now finds himself a lap down. He's going to fall out of lucky dog position there, as well as 3 lap cars going to make their way around him. So now if you're Donnie Garrett, basically you just got to control what you can control. Log all the laps that you possibly can here. More than likely not going to finish on the lead lap, and hope that maybe, just maybe, some more of your playoff contenders will run into some issues, make it at least somewhat close in the battle for the cut line, 4th in the position standings going into next week's elimination race. I think we're fairly close here to this final round of pit stops as well, noticing Nofsker, McClure, Metallic migrate their way from the middle lane, hugging the yellow line now, the short way all the way around the racetrack. We are within the window that you come to pit road now. You can make it the rest of the way. I did notice a couple of drivers, about half the field of this lead group, kind of hanging back a little bit. I'm not 100% certain how close we are on the window, but I almost wonder if maybe some of these drivers are going to have to come down pit road, take on 2 cans. Some drivers might be electing to go far enough that they will only have to take on a can and a half.
See Seminara going to the outside. The Spirits are going to go with him.
I think leaders are coming in.
Yes, they are. Seminara going to stay out, get a bonus point. Oh, boy, was that 880? Man, that was...
Greg with a
Big
little
lockup.
drift.
Big lockup for him.
Kelly Causey, big hit, locked up just before getting in there, too.
He'll get that car turned back around. He was coming down with Keith Bynum.
Part of me's surprised that Seminara decided
we got
to
a
stay.
caution.
Oh, the caution. Caution is out. I was about to say, I'm kind of surprised that Seminara stayed out when, the 3 in front of him, all playoff drivers came down pit road. I thought for sure that all the playoff drivers would want to pit together. That way they didn't, risk losing ground to each other, but that's not going to matter now.
That's going to be a huge break for all those drivers that pit, because they're going to be on pit road. When that caution came out, they should cycle around to the lead when everybody else hits pit lane. Was it the Kelly Causey incident that brought out the yellow?
No, Terry Bombard on the front straightaway just before the stripe, and he retired. Same exact spot as Donnie.
Oh, wow.
And hit the same spot in the wall almost, too. Nose in and got a toe and retired.
Well, I'm surprised that brought out the caution, but the incident for Donnie Garrett didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was from the front row of the pack that they were in. They weren't in first place, but it was the lead car of that second pack.
That was really unusual. Like, the 10 of Terry Bombard seemed to slow all of a sudden.
Denny Carroll just barely got by that, too.
I was checking the telemetry. It didn't look like Terry downshifted. I don't know if he ran out of fuel or if the engine let go, but that car lost speed all of a sudden because Bobby Farrell, who was running behind him, all of a sudden was literally into the back of him.
Yeah, you can see the flames popping out the exhaust pipes.
Oh, the engine went.
Yeah.
The engine went on the 10.
Maybe that's why the caution came out.
Yeah.
Maybe game
Maybe
picked
the
up
debris.
Yep.
oil or
Complete
debris or
silence.
something. Yeah, that.
So that's the difference then, because it blew up in front of people. Strange, no black smoke.
Right? That's the thing that kind of got me, that made me wonder if maybe he downshifted or something with that rapid decrease of speed, but I was riding on board with him. You could hear the engine did indeed let go.
33 of Graham McDonald with an issue, it looks like.
He's parked down on the inside of the racetrack, just past the start-finish line. Now he's retired out of the race.
He looked like he maybe, I think I saw him disappear a little bit, like another connection issue. The car just appeared on the front straightaway there.
Like, Brian Rawson also has retired from the race. We saw him go a couple of laps down during that green flag run. And we'll have to wait for official scoring. But I believe that Ron Hagelin and John Godfrey are the lucky dog drivers.
I'm showing them on lead lap, so they're wave around, right?
It depends on...
Oh, you got to...
Because I believe that was the first time round. They would have to pit second time by if they're lucky dogs. I'll double check back and see at the time that the caution came out who the lucky dog drivers were.
You got to wait on scoring. Once they go around another lap, it'll sort itself out. So Jeffrey Elliott had 3 laps led. Terry Bombard had 2 laps led. Who else out here led a lap? Rodney Stallings has 1. Bob Seminara has 2. And the rest led by Tim Nofsker. 42 laps led tonight.
Dominating performance by Tim Nofsker here tonight.
We're on lap 51.
that's the last thing that the other 7 playoff drivers want to see, too. 1 week removed from picking up a playoff victory that locked him here into this round, carrying all that momentum, and at this point in time, en route to leading at least 2/3 of the race, maybe pick up back-to-back victories in his 3rd of the season. I mean, this is a guy you don't want having that type of momentum heading into the final round of the playoffs.
And Seth, Michael just told me over whisper to tell you that he said Kevin. What have you guys done to him?
That is a Richmond GalaxyCon joke, and I love the fact that it has taken roots. So the reason I wasn't here last week, myself, some friends of mine were down in Richmond, Virginia, at an event called GalaxyCon. That's the convention for fans of all sorts of media stuff, whether it's video games or movies or TV shows. A lot of celebrities come down there and everything, and they had one night where they had a runway showcase of cosplayers that had literally handmade their entire costumes, nothing store-bought, and somebody showed up as the giant bird Kevin from the Disney Pixar movie Up, and needless to say, me and our party ended up starting a Kevin chant that night, and the whole auditorium was chanting for Kevin. So that has become a running gag for us now ever since then.
It's becoming such a gag that Michael just told me that his pit message is Kevin pitting the long way home.
There you go. Yeah, Blaine, I don't know if you saw it on Tuesday night, but when Anthony was on the pole in Maverick, that was a Kevin car.
Right. It looked familiar. I thought it was from a cartoon. I totally know what you're talking about now. That's hilarious.
We were on a street corner in Richmond after that event, and Anthony said to me, you should paint me a Kevin car. I said, done. So as soon as I got home, paint him a Kevin car.
Yeah, it was a very unique design. I'm like, why does that look familiar? Now that you say that, that's exactly what it is. That's amazing.
Fit way too well on a Toyota body, I can tell you that.
Funny how, yeah, it just works.
So I did look back, and there's the confirmation there with those 2 drivers up on the extreme outside line. John Godfrey, Ron Hagelin. They'll be back on the lead lap. And that will have us with 27 drivers on the lead lap of the 33 that are still running.
Speaking of paint schemes in Maverick, Blaine, I don't know if you were confused about Michael's paint scheme, but he said that it was based off of an anime.
Oh, maybe. I can't remember what it looked like now. Yeah, because you guys will rock the anime stuff sometimes. And that's my thing. My knowledge of anime is limited.
Same. Well, our field got somewhat shuffled up with that caution. The front three are all the same still, Novsker, McClure, and Metallic. But Richard Martin has now made his way up into the top 5. He'll restart in 4th. Greg Lovell, who's been up here in the top 5 all night long, is 5th. How about Keith Bynum? Now going to be 6th position on this restart. And Bob Seminara, Joe DeSpirito, Grant Wesley, and Jeremy Jeffries. That is your top 10. Like Rodney Sullins is going to restart in 11th. Denny Carroll in 13th place. And of course, Donnie Garrett, who is still sporting some damage. Certainly the crew did the best they could to repair that machine, I would assume, here under this caution period as best they can. But he's still trapped a lap down in the 30th position, and he is one of a half dozen drivers that is currently off the lead lap fighting for a lucky dog position and only going to have 13 laps to work with to try and get themselves back onto the lead lap and try and work their way back up the running order.
On the Tarnation TV YouTube feed, we've got Christine Bynum in there rooting for Dad. Good luck, Daddy. So he's got family watching.
We've got the final pit stop out of the way here. Can anybody do anything with that dominant trio of Tim Novsker, Chuck McClure, and Josh Metallic? I mean, you know, they finished 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in that order last week, and they've ran 1, 2, 3 practically this entire night. I mean, just really, really impressive the job that they've been doing the last week in this race so far. They've
definitely been in control, and everybody might have to gang up on them to be able to beat them here tonight. We did not have Milt Surratt in the field here this evening. He just popped up in the FRN YouTube chat, and we get to bring back the Who You Got Surratt. He's going with that Papaya Orange number 39 Aero McLaren car of Josh Metallic to win this evening. We'll see if he's able to get it done here as a great launch from McClure on that outside line.
Can he get down in front of Novsker? Yes, he can. So got a good push right there from Richard Martin. Took advantage of that and got the 17 out in front now.
McClure and Novsker now move up to that middle groove. They weren't able to get Metallic clear as Richard Martin will pull up alongside of him. That'll be the battle for 3rd place. Keep an eye, middle of the pack. More than likely going to see a 3rd line form, and those guys realizing we can't ride back here. Closing in on 10 laps to go. We got to start making forward progress now.
Somebody jumping to the outside right there. I can't tell who that was, but I know that's Kelly Causey right behind him.
Pat Pekarsky. I think that's Pekarsky.
It is indeed.
Oh, McClure again. Man, that's got to be
race lead.
That's got to be nerve-wracking, not just for him, but everybody around him. Whenever you see that, it's just you never know when that car's going to reappear.
And everybody behind him, which is everybody.
I mean, I know for us, his car completely disappears. I'm assuming for everybody that's around him, his car completely disappears. Yeah. I wonder on his end if the entire field disappears or if he's still able to see everybody.
That's a good question. I think everybody...
Ulysses in the back.
That's Ulysses Sandoval. It's like a single car incident.
Caution's out. They are racing back here since it is less than 15 to go. McClure will bring him back to the stripe. Novsker, Martin, Metallic, and I think it was Lovell just edging Keith Bynum for 5th place.
Oh, was it within 15 they raced back?
Yeah, within 15 laps they raced back.
Oh, they added 5.
Single car incident for this one here. I think this was in relation to that outside line they were trying to form, and Ken Roberts trying to fit a car into a small space there between Sandoval and Crivello.
Looked like Roberts' car pushed up just a little bit and got into Ulysses right there. And
that was a 3-wide battle right there. that turned into a 4-wide battle, and a couple of those drivers, the 36 of Crivello, the 96 of Ulysses Sandoval, they were actually battling for a lucky dog position. I believe when they crossed the stripe, Crivello and Cy Jones were the first two cars one lap down, so they will get the free passes under this caution, be back on the lead lap with a restart that should be just a tick under 10 laps to go.
I wonder if they have that role like in NASCAR where somebody who's racing for the free pass is actually involved in the caution that can't get their lap back.
I believe they do, if I'm not mistaken. When Chuck McClure got that launch on the restart and was able to get the lead from Tim Nofsker, that was his first laps led this evening, so bonus points going to be headed his way. And something that's going to be interesting here is I don't think that was planned. I don't think that it was planned for McClure to then tuck in front of Tim Nofsker and then work together that way. I think Nofsker, who's led over 2/3 of this race so far, I think he's been planning ever since he led the first of those few laps to lead the entirety of this race. And McClure was able, by benefit of being on the outside line, to get that launch. You don't get a black flag if you pass somebody before the start-finish line. If you pass them on the outside, I almost wonder now, if you're Chuck McClure, do you risk taking the inside line and maybe having Tim Nofsker do the exact same thing to you that you did to him on the previous restart?
That's a good question. I mean, it looked like McClure got a good push there from Richard Martin as well. And if he does restart on the bottom, he will have the 43 right behind him too. So I don't know. It's a good question. We'll see how this plays out here on this restart. As you see the two lucky dogs on the outside there, the 7 and the 36.
Like we're gonna have an expedited caution here, since pretty much everybody should be able to make it on fuel after they all pitted under the last caution. So we should see the lights go out on the pace car this time by. Cy Jones, Jeff Crivello will get their laps back, and that will leave us with 29 drivers currently on the lead lap. 4 drivers off the lead lap, and currently sitting with 7 drivers in the garage area. When you think about it with McClure, it seems like for McClure, a typical season is to win early on in the regular season, secure himself a spot in the playoffs, and then win early on in the playoffs to secure himself a spot into the next round. We saw him win the championship last season. McClure's been consistent, but we're now here into the 11th race of the season, him coming in the defending champion, and he still has a 0 in the win column. That is very unusual to have not seen the 17 parked in victory lane at some point during the course of the season this far in. And he wants to remedy that here tonight and maybe see if he can make a bid for back-to-back championships.
He's in the prime position right now, so had a strong car. He's ran in the top 3 all night long. Going to be less than 10 to go when we get the green flag this time by.
We've got 6 of our 8 playoff contenders that are going to restart inside of the top 10. Denny Carroll's not that far behind him. Going to restart on the inside of row 7 in 13th place. And again, Donnie Garrett, 1 lap down in the 30th position. Now, if we were to get a caution flag, say on this lap that we go back green, and he were in a free pass position, we would get at least 1 more restart for him to maybe try and make up some positions. But if we end up getting around lap 62, 63, then more than likely the 77 is going to finish this race a lap down, and the best he will be able to finish is going to be 30th place.
I would definitely put him in a must-win situation for next week. We've seen him in that position before this season, and he's come through, so you can never count him out.
We talked about those X factors, non-playoff drivers coming into tonight. Could play spoiler The 9 playoff contender a chance to lock themselves into the Final Four. You've got recently eliminated Richard Martin up here, Keith Bynum, Joe DeSpirito, Greg Lovell. Do not count these guys out. They could still find themselves in victory lane at the conclusion of this one. We're going to have 8 laps to go here tonight in this third playoff race, this first race of the round of 8.
McClure does choose the bottom, so...
Like pretty even start for both McClure and Nofsker. Now can McClure get himself clear of Nofsker when they exit off of 2 is going to be the question.
Yes, sirree.
It's going to open the door for the 43 of Martin on the bottom. Can they get anything going on that inside line?
Oh, they're shoving, and that just got Jeremy Jeffries really squirrely. 5th car on that inside line. He was almost up into the driver's side door of Rodney Sullins, 2/3 of the way down the back straightaway. Inside line's got momentum.
Yeah, Martin's able to stay with them here.
That nice drive into the corner there, gets up halfway alongside the driver's side door of Tim Nofsker. Now can they keep that momentum down the back straightaway is the big question. Usually off of turn 2 is where the cars on the inside line get really tight. That right rear tire slides up, scrubs off that straight line speed, and you can see just like that, a battle for second. He slips back side by side with Greg Lovell for the 4th position, exiting off of 4.
Spirito had a look out of the outside right there, but pulls back in line.
Almost seems like if you're gonna get those top 3, you're gonna have to get them on that outside line. You think back to earlier on this race when we saw the Elliott brothers using the outside line but sharing the middle groove. Almost seems like that's what you're gonna have to do if you're gonna get around the 3 drivers that have had a stranglehold on the field all night long. And Joe DeSpirito, as you mentioned there, Kyle, I think he might have been testing the waters, shading up there to see if Rodney Sullins, Michael Norman, and some of those others behind him, if he jumps up there, are they going to be willing to go with him, or are they going to leave him high and dry?
Well, you got a couple of drivers right there with really nothing to lose. Michael Norman and Bobby Farrell. Now they got Richard Martin right there as well. So, I mean, got a couple of guys, really nothing to lose. They could make a move here.
Spirito, see him kind of backing off the bumper of Greg Lovell. If he's trying to generate a run here down the back straightaway, see if he makes a move up here into 3. Nope, not just yet. Still keeping that space between himself and that Buffalo Bills Ford. They were 3 wide towards the back of the pack, but they've settled out to double wide. And again, you see the 24 wide off the corner. He's trying to get the run off the exit of the corner here.
He definitely
just not
wants
seeming
to go.
be able to time it. And Carroll a little further back, heading up that 3rd line, way up on the outside. But Causey and Cy Jones had a moment back there towards the tail end of the field. Causey had to go down below the yellow line, has safely remerged back up. And we are into the point of no return here. Next flag is going to end this race. And we've seen cautions come out just after the leaders cross the start-finish line. They get an entire lap to make their way around. We've seen cautions come out just mere 100 feet before the start-finish line. So
Just a
hopefully they
Spirito
keep
looking.
it clean and green, but you never know.
Spirito had another look to the outside there. So 3 wide between the 63, the 712, and 43.
Oh, big shove there from Denny Carroll to Keith Bynum. Some narrow dives to the inside of Bobby Farrell. Again, DeSpirito going up there to that outside line, and it almost looks like Rodney Sullivan's not willing to go up there with him. Now DeSpirito going to go to the bottom instead.
Michael might go with him there. Tried to get in front of Seminaro on the bottom. Goes back to that middle groove. I think DeSpirito is trying to get in front of Seminaro. So those two work well together. But now DeSpirito's going to lead that inside line. Got Rodney Sullins with him for the time being.
Oh, Greg Lovell's going to go down there as well. And everybody goes back up to the middle groove.
Coming to get the white flag. Seminaro to the bottom.
Spirito now going to move down there as well. Will we see anybody up there amongst the top 3 or 4 that jumped down to the inside line here? Chuck McClure trying to win his way into the Final Four, but same for Nofsker, same for Metallic. All 3 playoff contenders. Final lap. Who's going to punch their ticket into the final 2 races of the season? Alec takes a look up top. He's got help. Here comes Lovell. Here comes Sullins. Trouble in the back there.
Whoa.
We're still racing, though.
Nofsker to the inside.
Oh, man.
Lots of good bumping right there.
Metallic got shuffled out to the top side. Greg Lovell's going to be the only shot here against Chuck McClure, but I don't know if he's got enough track. I don't know if he's got enough momentum. Chuck McClure, he's going back to the championship for his first win of the season. Is a big one here tonight in the first playoff race of the round of 8.
Man. Such a crazy scenario there for Metallic. He went from 2nd to what? 9th? 10th.
Scoring shows 10th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was right there. And then just like you said, everybody started bumping and they all fanned out and he went backwards.
One of the co-points leaders heading into this race.
It's the ultimate risk reward. Just how much are you willing to lose to be able to gain that automatic lock into the championship hunt? And for Metallic, it did not work out in his favor. Now, the good news for him is a lot of the other playoff drivers, he still finished around them, but there'll be 7 drivers next week that will be vying for only 3 available spots, as one of those final 4 positions belongs to driver number 17, the defending champion from a season ago. So happy. Looks like Nofsker is going to finish in 2nd. Rodney Sullins is going to complete the podium in 3rd. Seminara is going to be 5th. Grant Wesley 8th. Josh Metallic in 10th position.
How about the man that just joined us here in the booth, Michael Norman? Great run tonight, man.
No, I know, but what is it with you and getting bumped coming onto pit road? You must be just too slow or something in everybody's way. What's going on?
Actually, that was the fastest I came onto pit road. I made the right decision. I was up there. The first group was pitting. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this. And then I decided to stay out the second time around, and the caution came out. So
I thought Chuck McClure was going to do a Polish victory lap there, but he pulls it into the grass.
Right in front of that memorial decal there, featured at the entrance of pit road.
My game just crashed. It was a whole replay.
Speaking of replay, I want to see what happened on that last lap right there. There was a...
I would have loved to show you, but I just lost the whole race.
Yeah, I almost wondering what happened.
Yeah, I think...
man.
I think it was the 63 of Keith Bynum might have gone around, and a driver that was in the middle of all that was the 41 of Denny Carroll, who had done a great job of staying out of trouble, and it looks like Denny's going to finish out the night in the 28th position. So a couple of drivers that we will certainly be keeping our eyes on next week in that elimination race. Donnie Garrett, who will finish this race a lap down, and Denny Carroll, who's going to be scored last car on the lead lap. Those 2 drivers we'll have to wait and see how the mathematics all calculate, but could be heading into next week borderline must-win situation.
A lot of good racing out there this time. I got yelled at once by Richard Martin because I was trying to side draft with the non-existent side draft, and it was messing them all up behind me.
Oh, they just got to a chain reaction deal. Wow, the 31 got upside down.
A couple of them got upside down there, actually. The 33 got upside down. The 31 got upside down. 55 of Ken Roberts, I think, T-boned Tim Anderson as he was on his roof. But at that point, everybody's just throttle down, try and get through and pick up all of those valuable spots.
Got a feel for Denny Carroll right there. It looked like his plan was just to try to survive here, move, just quietly work his way up there, and he was running decently until that wreck happened.
And he did at least make it across the start-finish line, albeit in the 28th position. Looks like Donnie Garrett's going to finish out the night in 31st off the lead lap. Both of those drivers not the evening they were looking for in this first race of the round of 8. The other 5 drivers that finished up inside of the top 5, they are still going to be super, super close. That cut line, there may end up being a tie on the cut line going into next week. We'll have to wait and see. But one driver that is going to be worry-free is going to be Chuck McClure.
Wow, and this was the same exact top 3 from last week. Not in the same order, but impressive.
And let's see if we can dial up our podium finishers here tonight. Let's get a hold of third place finisher Rodney Sullins. Hey Rodney, it's the guys up here in the booth. You got a copy?
How is it going, fellas?
Man, I'll tell you what, you had a lot of work to do here tonight, my friend. Did not get the benefit of the qualifying draw. Started back, I think it was in the final 3 rows. Saw you have to fight your way up through the field here tonight in the conversation for this victory, and things seem to get really hairy in the closing stages as well. Michael just told us being up in the middle of all you playoff drivers made him nervous. What about being a playoff driver in that situation? What was the heart rate like in those final couple of laps?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've still got a little bit of shake going on, as I knew it was going to get crazy, because at one time, like 7 of the top 8 were in the top 13 there on that restart, I believe. I think Donnie had some bad luck, and I really don't know where he was, but I think everybody else was in the front. So yeah, it was quite hairy. Yeah, Michael was behind me. I didn't know what his plan was. Michael would go with me if I did choose to do something. So I just decided just to kind of ride around and let it play out and see what other people were going to do, and then make my moves off them. Because let's face it, like you said, I come in with my back against the wall, me and Denny back in the back. So if I'd have finished in the top 10, honestly, I'd have been happy. But to be here on the podium, just yeah, it's a breath of fresh air. I'm quite relieved.
You mentioned about the fact of us having a majority of the Elite 8 up there inside of the top 10 on those final couple of restarts with points as close as they were coming into tonight. Did that make it more of a priority to maybe win this race, lock yourself in, or do you still feel, even though you had a lot of the playoff drivers finish around you, that this finish here tonight puts you in a somewhat comfortable position going into next week's elimination race?
It sure helps. Yeah, I would like to have won. Probably would have increased my odds, obviously, if I would have made a move. But by the same token, I could have went to the back. So with all those guys being up there, that's kind of why I decided just to see how it played out. I thought the bottom lane was going to have an advantage when the top lane started, but the top lane didn't come in time for me to clear the bottom, which I didn't expect that to happen. So once I cleared the bottom, I was like, I'm just going to watch and see what happens. And everything I do is going to be based off what happens around me. And I know Joe was moving up, moving down, probably looking to see if I'd go to go with him. And I wanted to, but then there was, like I say, there was that the guy sitting on my shoulder here going, dude, one wrong move and you lose 10 spots quick. So I let it play and then made my decision off what other people were doing.
It's interesting.
I got a question here. Yeah, you, Nofsker and McClure were the top 3 finishers last week, and you're the top 3 finishers again this week. How did you guys pull that off?
We just deja vu. Have you ever seen Groundhog Day?
Oh yeah.
That's I didn't even notice that, but you're right. Who won? Did Tim win last week?
Tim won last week. Yep.
But dadgummit, we better do this next week.
And this time you get P1, right?
That's right. I mean, if they want to share, they don't have to hog it all. That's
right.
Good point there, Kyle. Didn't even notice that, man.
It's interesting, too, because if you look at the playoffs so far, you go back to the first round, it was really all about execution under green flag conditions, very few cautions. Here tonight, we saw the yellow flag wave a couple more times, and you yourself were actually involved in one of those incidents off of turn 4 and able to recover to be able to salvage the podium finish here tonight. Do you expect the dynamic here tonight to carry over into next week? And with that being said, I'm looking at the calculations. Points are still really, really close. So are you looking for a little deja vu of next week of being able to get up there to the front, stay at the front, at least be in the conversation to point your way in? Or do you maybe look at next week as maybe treat it as a must-win situation, especially if a lot of those guys around you in the playoffs are up there again?
I'm going to take it, kind of depend to see what happens with the beginning of the race and see if anybody gets in any kind of unfortunate accident or anything, gets some damage, and then kind of just let the race play out. And if I get a chance to win, that means I'm up front, so I don't have to push the issue. Maybe a second or third would be good enough, but again, that's going to depend on the guys that are right there with me in the top 5 or 10, of course. So I'm going to play it just like next week. I expect it to be crazy. I think Denny and Donnie both had some rough nights tonight, so I think they're going to be really hungry next week. So that's 2 guys that could race their way in, which changes the cut line. So, you know, it's things like that I got to look at. I got to know who's around me to whether or not I can race my way in, or if one of those guys are up front for the win, I really got to have a good run to race my way in. So we'll see what happens. I want to be on offense, but sometimes when I do that, I seem to make the mistakes. So I'm going to, tonight I just said I got a bad starting spot. I was just like, I'm just going to take it cool and work my way to the front. When that wreck happened, I was like, oh, well, yeah, that's kind of expected. Come out of that okay. Worked my way back to the front, and here we are. So I'm happy. I'm really happy.
Well, we talked about pre-race what you playoff drivers might be strategizing, and one thing that we touched on was you may not be able to come away with a victory, but do not have a bad finish to put yourself behind the 8 ball going next week. You were able to do just that. A great run here tonight. 3rd place position keeps you right there in the conversation to fight for a spot in the Final 4 next week, Rodney. Congratulations on being able to come back from that early adversity, that wreck as well, be able to get the solid finish. And before we let you go, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Hey, thank you, sir. I do appreciate it. Obviously, I want to thank Flat Out Racing Network, Tarnation TV. Who we got up here tonight? Kyle, Michael. Michael's in the race. Blaine, Seth. Can't wait to go back and watch this. Nice run tonight, Michael. I don't know where you finished, but that was you had a good run tonight.
I finished 6th.
Oh, good deal. Nice job. But thank you, guys. These broadcasts are phenomenal. I'm hoping you guys are enjoying it. I'm loving it. I know everybody else really is enjoying what you're putting out there. RTG, the Owners Prime, Jeremy, Josh, Sheck, and I know Jeremy's been busting some tail of late with some, I guess there's been some website problems and things like that, and Jeremy's been figuring out when, he's got nothing else to do but worry about RTG. So thank you, Jeremy, for the extra stuff that you do there, and all the guys that run it here. Tim and Josh, again, let me hang on your coattails. Appreciate you guys. Congrats to Chuck on the win. Tim, great run, finishing 2nd. Black Rifle Coffee, Havana Brisa, Wickers. My RPM teammates, I would not be in this position tonight without those guys. They helped me get to the front. Dad, I hope you're doing well. Talk to you tomorrow. See how you're doing. Love you. Cousin Eric, Sullins, appreciate you watching. Kevin Duclos, I'm glad you guys are watching. I appreciate you out there. John, making this great track. Is this thing not awesome? And I'm going to close out with thanking our donor for the vets that appreciate all of our vets. In memory of all of our guys, Bones, we miss him every day. And of course, Bob Dixon that we lost recently. That race last week was a fun race in his memory. So, well, thanks guys. Appreciate you.
Oh, Ronnie Selwyn's a great run here tonight in this first race of the round of 8. Brings it home on the podium in 3rd place. Congratulations on the job well done. Best of luck next week as you look to lock yourself into the Final Four, compete for this championship in season 67.
Thanks, fellas. Have a good night.
See if we can now get a hold of the driver that brought it home 2nd place here tonight. He was in victory lane last week, and he'll find himself in a good position going into next week's elimination race as well. Let's dial up Tim Nofsker. Hey, Tim, it's the guys up here in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, welcome back, sir.
Hey, thank you. I mean, you have been on quite the momentum run as of late, my friend. You had that victory last week, locked yourself here into this round. Dominating performance here tonight. 44 circuits out in front. Almost come away with back-to-back victories. I know it's not the automatic lock into the Final Four, but it's some good points going into next week. Looks like scoring's got you about 10 points ahead of the cut line, so a little bit of a cushion to be able to work with, despite the fact that you didn't get that automatic lock into the Final Four. How about tonight and the momentum that you've had here these last couple of weeks as well? Is this 088 maybe the one to look for if indeed you advance into that final round of the playoffs?
I'd like to think so. I had 99.9% perfect race. I just fell asleep on that restart. I don't know what happened. Just totally snoozed it, and Chuck got such a good jump. He beat me into turn 1 and then pulled up. But yeah, I've knock on wood, had some good finishes here in the playoffs. Hopefully we can keep that momentum going.
Yeah, we saw that restart there and the 17 be able to get around you. Did you have any type of strategy in the closing stages to maybe try and get him back and pick up this victory? Or with all the other playoff drivers that were around you, were you maybe a little bit more on the defense and just making sure that you finished out the night with a solid finish, have yourself in a good position for next week?
Yeah, that was the mindset. If you watched last week, Chuck gave me a good push to get the win last week, and I kind of felt like I definitely owed him at least to get even with the favor owed. So I was going to stay with him, and then I knew it was going to get crazy. I really was surprised that no one really hopped out before we came to the 1 to go, and I was thankful actually, because they pulled that same move with 5 to go. I might end up finishing 25th. You never know. So I felt with them moving on the backstretch on the last lap, I could still salvage the top 5 out of it, no matter what happened. So that was good. I got a good push there from Rodney coming out of 4 there, and that kind of got me up to 2nd. So I was happy with the outcome.
We talked with Rodney just moments ago, and he's going to be going into next week's race below the cut line. You're going in above the cut line. And I know that obviously the strategy can change multiple times from the initial green flag to the checkered flag, but in the situation you're in right now, do we expect to see the 088 on offense next week, or do we see you maybe playing a little bit of defense to preserve that position you've got, that cushion you've got to the cut line?
I think the plan going in is just to see if we can get a solid top 10. I think that would get me into it. If given the points after tonight's race, if the 41 or the 77 are sniffing around the lead, I might try to be a little bit more aggressive just to make sure I don't drop out of the top 4. If either one of those guys win, that could, or even, Rodney wins, if any one of the bottom 4 right now get up there or sniff around the lead, I might have to be a little bit more offense minded. But as of right now, I think I just need a decent finish.
One thing that we saw as well that worked out in your favor was we saw you and a group of drivers come to pit road just prior to a caution coming out, so it cycled you guys back up to the front of the field. We talk about the fact that the last couple of weeks, cautions have been few and far between. It's really been all about green flag execution. Now with a couple more cautions here tonight, if there's a possibility that we could end up seeing a couple more yellows next week, does that also maybe play into the strategies that you, your teammates, and others that you're working with maybe call at any point during the race?
Well, tonight we just kind of got lucky with the way the caution landed. But, with this series, look at the last two races. You cannot count on a caution at any given time. Granted, I think we had a little bit more cautions just because I think intensity is picking up. We're getting toward the, end of the season, and guys want to do as, whether it's trying to finish in the top 30 in points for next season or guys that are trying to make the final cut. Intensity is definitely only going to go up from here.
Well, we could definitely tell the intensity is picking up here tonight. Obviously, less drivers battling for the championship. A lot of drivers trying to get their first win on the season, and more than likely going to see the wick turned up a little bit more going into next week's elimination race. But Tim, congratulations on the finish here tonight. Nice little cushion between yourself and that cut line going into next week as you look to advance your way into the Final Four. Before we let you go, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
As always, thank you guys for doing what you do and putting on a great show. I got to thank Josh and Rodney. As a team, I think we do a pretty good job on Thursdays. Got to thank Chuck for pushing me, and Josh. Those guys were pushing me all night. Got a good bump from Rodney. Got to thank him. Thank Prime, Shaq. Jeremy does a great job for us with a lot of the technical stuff, and thank all those guys. And other than that, that's about it.
Well, Tim Knopfsker, he brings it home second place here tonight, 1 week removed from his second victory on the season. He'll look to keep this momentum going into next week as he looks to join the Final Four to compete for the season 67 championship. Congratulations, Tim. Best of luck next week in that elimination race.
All right. Thank you.
Tim Knopfsker, your runner-up finisher here tonight, led a race high 44 laps. Next highest lap leader led 14 laps, and he's parked in victory lane. Let's go down and talk with tonight's race winner, Chuck McClure. Hey, Chuck, it's the guys up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Oh, man, I'll tell you what. It seems really unusual to be talking to you this late in the season going to victory lane, but what a time for it to happen here. Locked into the Final Four, a chance to go back-to-back here, season 66 to 67, defend that championship title. But describe what was going through your mind as far as the emotions here, because there were so many playoff drivers up there in the top 5, top 10 with you pretty much the entirety of the evening.
Yeah, I was watching all of them, but I mainly had my eye on the 39 because he was my bracket guy, and I don't know why. I was just fixated on him, and it was pretty tight, and it was pretty wild at the end.
Obviously got to be a huge weight off of your shoulders going into next week's race. You know you're going to be competing for the championship, so what is the strategy there? Like, I mean, you could, by all rights and purposes, you could park on lap 1 and you know that you're going to be battling for the championship, but I know as a racer you don't want to do that, so what do you do next week? Do you just kind of maybe test the waters, test some combination with some other drivers, test some different lines, see what works for things that maybe you can apply in a couple of weeks' time when we get to that final round?
Well, you wouldn't believe the people telling me, okay, you're in, now I need help next week. So if I got like 5 guys that want me to help them, but I really appreciate the 39 and the 088 working with me tonight. We were just up front all night, didn't get off each other much.
Obviously, I was out of state. I wasn't able to participate with you guys in that Bob Dixon 250 tribute race, but saw you go to victory lane there this past Saturday night. Was that maybe a thing that helped spur you here tonight to have this car get to the front, stay at the front, and eventually finish at the front?
Yeah, it kind of was. I didn't realize it at the time, but that was a super honor to even run in that race, let alone win it. So, yeah, I kind of had some momentum coming in, and then I got lucky enough to qualify in the top 10, which is kind of rare. So that helped as well.
Well, Chuck, a tremendous job here tonight. Able to really execute on that one restart that eventually got you to the lead and able to keep everybody at bay for the remainder of the run. Finally find victory lane and have yourself a secured spot in the Final Four. Congratulations on a job well done here tonight. Get to relax a little bit going into next week and have some fun with that Final Four, that final round looming. We'll let you get back to your celebrating here in a moment. Before we do, floor is yours for victory lane. Thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Well, first off, I appreciate you guys, FLRN and Tarnation TV, for covering these races. They're a blast to watch. Rodney for the pain, and a special thank you to Tim for helping me out. I helped him last week. That's just what we do. And I appreciate all the guys giving me the tire rub at the end. That means a lot too. And all the people that I work with from Marshall County Schools, I haven't been thanking them when I've been getting interviewed. Sorry about that, but there you go. And all the admins here, Josh, Tim, Rodney, and Check behind the scenes doing everything he can do, and Prime as well. So without them, we don't get to do this.
Well, Chuck, congratulations once again, your victory here tonight. First driver we know that will be competing for the championship in a couple weeks' time in those final two races of the season. Best of luck next week. So look to keep the momentum going for that final round, and go and enjoy this victory here tonight.
Appreciate it, guys.
Chuck McClure, your race winner, his first victory on the season. A couple of things. First off, Kyle, you mentioned earlier on tonight that coming into this evening, we only had 2 multi-time winners. It has been very spaced out with the drivers that have gone to victory lane here this season. Well, add another one to the list, another first-time winner here in season 67 with Chuck McClure. So the diversity continues.
Yeah, first-time winner being the defending champ. No, you said that felt weird to say, but here we are. But, I figured, Chuck McClure would get the victory lane, here pretty soon, and he did it tonight, and he's going to be racing he's going to be able to have a chance to defend that championship.
And I also love the fact that when we came on the air tonight, I said, well, we ended up having 5 eliminations. We've got a lot more X factors out there. It's going to be a lot tougher for a playoff driver to be able to go to victory lane. And we ended up having 6 of them finish up inside of the top 10 here this evening. We had 3 of them dominate this race and 1 of them go to victory lane in Chuck McClure. So I don't know why I do preliminary notes. It's super speedway race, and it's kind of one of those things, just got to see what happens, because these guys always seem to surprise you. But in the case here for Chuck McClure here tonight, obviously a huge sense of relief for him, but the points have been calculated. Again, tremendous credit to Jeremy Jeffries and the RTG admins making sure we have this information before we go off the air to be able to kind of give a precursor for the following weeks, especially going into an elimination race. Novsker going to have 10 points over the cut line, but then it's super close amongst 4 drivers. Grant Wesley, Josh Metallic, they are going to be tied for third, 2 points above the cut line. Cut line driver will be Bob Seminara. We talked with Rodney Selvins, who finished podium tonight. He's -2. Despite the podium finish, he's still below the cut line. And then Donnie Garrett, Denny Carroll, they are a total of 33 and 34 points, respectively, below the cut line. Pretty safe to say they're going to probably have to win their way into the Final Four next week. So many different scenarios going into next week's race. No guarantee that a playoff driver is even going to go to victory lane. Next week's going to be an elimination race to tune into.
Yeah, there's going to be, as close as the points are right now, there's quite a few drivers right there that could have a solid run. A run that normally you would think, okay, well, that was pretty good. That should be good enough to, make it onto the next round. That ain't going to be good enough for some of these drivers, as close as it is. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see next week, especially when you have 2 drivers that are in a must-win situation. We saw Donnie Garrett be in that same situation right before the playoffs started. He had to win in order to make the playoffs. He was able to do just that. Keep an eye on the 77 next week.
We take one step closer towards determining a future challenger for Brian Schilling in the bracket challenge as well. With McClure's victory tonight, he and Grant Wesley will face off in the finals of the losers side of the bracket next week. So that should be a heavyweight fight to keep an eye on, as well as both of those drivers going to be looking to potentially make up 50% of the final four going into the final round of the playoffs. McClure has already done so with his first victory here tonight. Who
Final
will
four in
join him? Yeah.
Final four in quotation marks. We
Yeah,
could have
asterisks.
a final five, maybe even a final six. Who knows? I mean,
I
it's
would
close
not
right
be
now.
surprised with what we've seen the last couple of seasons. Would not surprise me in the least. Well, we hope that everybody enjoyed our coverage here
Where am I at in
tonight.
points, Seth?
Where are you in points?
Mm-hmm.
I
I'm not-
can't
you're
count
not
that
even-
high.
A win wouldn't even help you at this point.
Nope.
No,
Let's
I just
see.
wanna be locked in.
Michael Norman is 38th.
darn
And
it,
you're
so I
still
forget.
below Cody. Cody's 34th.
I know.
But you
I
gotta
was
top 10 tonight.
okay, out of the whole season, this was my only top 10, okay?
It was. Hey, but it was a good top 10.
Yeah.
Now you got to win next week. You've set the bar too high. Now you got to win
Yep,
next week.
exactly.
Well, if you want to see Michael win next week, be sure to tune in next Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on Tarnation TV and the Flat Out Racing Network. Chuck McClure has secured himself a spot into the final round of the playoffs. Who will join him next week will determine that for the final two races of the season. For Blaine Donlin, Kyle Matthews, I'm Seth Cole. Thanks for joining us here tonight. We'll see you guys next week as we continue the coverage of season 67 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series here on the Flat Out Racing Network and Tarnation TV.